أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم والصلاة والسلام على سيدنا محمد أشرف المرسلين وعلى صحبه أجمعين ومن اتبع لسنته إلى يوم الدين أما بعد السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته يا أيها الإخوة والأخوات. Assalamu alaikum, brothers and sisters. I greet you with the greeting of Islam, which is to say, may the peace and blessings of Allah Almighty be upon you. After that, we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to send His peace and His blessings upon His messenger, Muhammad ibn Abdullah, the seal of the prophets and the last of the messengers. And we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to send blessings upon all His companions, upon His family, and upon all those who follow them in guidance until the day of judgment. Amma ba'd. Now, as to what follows, we continue with the 10th iteration of our immersion into the book that is known as Mukhtasar al-Akhdari, the abridgment of Imam al-Akhdari and morals, purification, and prayers. Right now, alhamdulillah, we're still in the section that deals with morals. And in the last section, he had told us a number of character traits and actions that are haram. Specifically, he had said that it's haram for a person to engage in a way where he has al-ru'yatu al-fadli al-ghayr, where he sees himself as being better than others. Likewise, he said that it's forbidden to engage in al-hamzu wal-lamaz, or al-hamzu wal-lamaz. Al-hamzu wal-lamz, I should say. If you say al-lamaz, that's the one that's doing the lamaz. If you say al-hamaz, that's the one that's doing the hamaz. You understand? Al-hamz wal-lamz. It's forbidden to mock people and talk about them in a bad way, whether it's in their face or behind their back, or whether it's using gestures or whether it's using words. And he had also told us that it's haram for a person to engage in al-abath, which is endless, needless play. You understand? For a human being, a serious human being, beyond the confines of, for example, playing with his spouse or her spouse, or playing with his children or her children, or beyond the confines of what's necessary for recreation, to just be engaged in endless play. That is something that is haram for a mukallaf to engage in. Was sukhriya, and he had also said that it's haram for a person to engage in what's known as sukhr. Sukhr is basically to laugh at people in a way where they think that they're in on the joke, but in reality you're making fun of them. So you see someone with outdated clothes and you're trying to make fun of them, like, oh brother, where'd you get those clothes, man? Where can I get that, man? That looks nice, man. You know? Or you wink when that person passes by, or you make a little sly comment. All of these things are indicative of a person that's engaging in sukhr, and that's something that's very haram. Now, inshallah, he's going to get into even more serious matters of character. A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim. He says here that it's haram for the mukallaf to engage in what's known as a zina. Zina, broadly translated, refers to fornication. So zina is of two kinds, and both of which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has censured. He says, وَلَا تَقْرَبُوا الزِّنَا. He says in the Quran, in Surah Al-Isra, he says, don't approach zina. It's a very evil path to take. Fornication is either when an unmarried person, when a person that's never been married, they engage in sexual intercourse with another person without being married. Or when it's a married person engages in sexual intercourse with someone that's other than their spouse. And this is something that is haram on a lot of levels. First and foremost, it corrupts the moral character of a human being. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has warned us about it. In the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he said that it removes the light from a person's face. Secondly, as we know from the mountains of research that exist and the mountains of historical evidence and experience, it results in an abundance of social ills. The first thing is, for example, the reason why there's a lot of single fathers in certain communities is because there's no onus on getting married before you have sexual intercourse. So the father has no particular attachment to the mother, and therefore when the mother has a child, the father can easily leave. So you'll see that people are having children left and right. They'll have 4 different mothers of all their children, but they're not with any single one of them, and so the children end up missing a father figure in their life. That's one. As a result of that, some of these women, because they're chasing a sexual partner, they might put someone in the house that is abusive towards their child, whether it's physically, emotionally, sexually, because they're not married to that person. That person is not the parent of their child, for example. Another social ill that it results in is the fact that it breeds diseases. The Prophet ﷺ, he says, never will a people engage in illegal sexual intercourse except new diseases will breed amongst them. So you see what they call sexually transmitted infections. The name alone lets you know how it comes about. It's sexually transmitted infections. It's a lack of cleanliness, first and foremost, and secondly, it's from the proliferation of having multiple sexual partners, right? From having multiple sexual partners in an unrestricted manner. So what happens is that people, they get together, they take diseases from this person, they spread it to that person, they take it from this person, and they spread it to that person. So these are some of the social ills that it results in. And then what happens thirdly also is it leads into a lot of sexual abuse. When a person has no control over their sexual desires, what happens is that they're willing to do anything and everything. And in the process, they end up destroying people. So you see some people, they'll molest and rape their own family members. You'll see some people, they'll molest and rape the children of other people. You'll see some people, they'll rape women. You know, they destroy a person's life because they can't control their sexual desires. So all of this is restricted by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala when He iterates, La taqrabu zina, don't approach zina, that you should only marry a person, you should only sleep with a person when you and that person are married. This ensures that there's love, this ensures that families, they grow up in a proper manner, and this ensures that diseases are not spread in the community and the people do not suffer as a result of it. He says, وَالنَّظَرُ إِلَى الْأَجْنَبِيَّةِ. He said it's also haram to look at a strange woman or a strange man for a woman. What this means is that a person that you can get married to, that you're not married to, it's haram to lustfully glance at that person. For the purpose of conversing with a person, obviously you have to look at a person. For the purpose of engaging in a business transaction, obviously you have to look at a person. For the purpose of someone teaching you something, obviously you have to look at a person. But to continue in that glance, that's something that's haram. So if that's haram, what does that indicate to us about watching things such as pornography, watching movies where people are half naked? All of this is haram. Because what it does, it leads to the first thing that is prohibited, which is a zina. The zina begins with a look. Without the look, fornication can't happen. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has made it that the believers in Surah An-Nur, He says, tell the believing men to lower their gaze and protect their private parts. That is pure for them. Wallahu ya'lamu bima yaf'alun. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He knows everything that you're doing. So a person should lower his gaze. When it means lower his gaze, what they mean is restrict his glance. Doesn't mean physically put your head down. Although in some situations you might have to physically put your head down. Rather, it means restrict your glance from leering towards that which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has made forbidden for you to look at. This will protect your heart. It'll put barakah in your eyes. And it'll protect you from engaging in zina. He says, وَالتَّلَذُّذُ بِكَلَامِهَا, and taking pleasure in the speech of that strange woman or that strange man if it happens to be a man or woman. So for example, what today we call boyfriend and girlfriend, two people that are unmarried sitting on the phone talking to each other for hours at a time. They talk about everything under the sun. Like, that's going to lead to fornication. And without a doubt, you talk to a person for hours, you exchange photos, you like the way each other looks. Eventually what's going to happen is you're going to get into fornication. And fornication, it physically feels good, but ultimately it results in loss. It results in loss of barakah, loss of blessings in your life, and it breeds a lot of suffering, because the vast majority of relationships that are based on fornication, they don't go on to anything except heartbreak. You see people commit suicide. You see people never recover. You see some people, their partners, they beat them, because the foundation that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wanted the human being to engage sexual intercourse within or upon is marriage. And when that is lacking, then the barakah that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala would have normally placed there, that also goes with it. You understand? So likewise, taking pleasure in talking to a woman that you can marry but that you're not married to is haram as well. He says, وَأَكَلُ أَمْوَالِ النَّاسِ بِغَيْرِ طِيبِ النَّفْسِ. He says it's also haram to consume the wealth of people when they're not pleased with it. You understand? So this doesn't mean just stealing the money of somebody, although that's completely haram. Like that's a major sin. But rather, when you have somebody's money and you're consuming and you're eating it, and he has no choice but to watch you eat it, but he's not pleased with you eating it, that's something that's haram. So you have to make sure that whenever you have the wealth of people and that you're about to consume it, that you acquire it in a way that they're pleased with, and that you consume it in a way that they're pleased with, that they're not forced to give you that money. A quick example, for example, is when you're in Africa and then you are stopped by the police, and the police, they have no right to stop you, but they take money from you. Like, in order to let you go, we have to take this amount of money from you. They're eating your money without you being pleased to it. They're doing something that's completely haram. You understand? He says, وَأَكْلُ بِالشَّفَاعَةِ. He said, likewise, it's haram to eat it's haram to eat wealth or to consume wealth بالشفاعة, through intercession. So a person comes to you and say, bro, these guys are about to kill me. They say that if I say, who do I know in this place? Like, they'll allow me, they won't kill me. Will you please talk to them and save me from them? You know? And you say, yeah, I'll save you, but after I save you, you have to give me $10,000. That's haram. You know, you should intercede on behalf of people for the sake of it being a good cause. You understand? He says, أو بالدين, or likewise, it's haram to eat by virtue of the religion. That means to use the name of the religion for the purpose of making profit. You see this a lot of times with people, they make these t-shirts, you know, or people that they make these so-called clubs, where masculine clubs, you know, they're trying to sell this lifestyle to people, and then they're using these things just to eat off the religion, man. Like, they're not furthering the religion. Their whole purpose is to eat off the religion. Obviously, the author, he intended more extreme examples. It doesn't mean just the mundane examples, but more extreme examples of people, outright charlatans that don't believe in the religion, that will use the religion to eat off of it. And he says, finally, he says, وَتَأْخِيرُ الصَّلَاةِ عَنْ أَوْقَاتِهَا. He says it's a major sin to delay the prayer beyond its due time. There are some scholars that believe that if a person purposely stops praying, then that person is a disbeliever. Obviously, that's an extreme opinion, and it's not the correct opinion, but nonetheless, it's something that indicates to you the seriousness of delaying the prayer and not praying. Whenever the time for the prayer comes and a person meets all the conditions of praying, then it's incumbent upon that person that immediately they leave off everything and then they engage in their prayer. Otherwise, they are engaged in a major sin. So inshallah, to recap, the author says that it's haram for a mukallaf, a legally responsible Muslim, to engage in az-zina, to engage in fornication. وَالنَّذَرُ إِلَى الْأَجْنَبِيَّةِ, that they should not be looking at strange women, or for women, they should not be looking at strange men. So for you young guys today, you shouldn't be on the explore reel of Instagram scrolling and looking at women, leering at the women. That's haram. وَالتَّلَذُّذُ بِكَلَامِهَا, and you shouldn't be engaged in speaking to these women towards the purpose of gaining pleasure. It's one thing when you want to marry the person, but even then, there should be a limit to what you say, or else you'll fall into sin. The sin of even speaking to the woman is in of itself, or it might lead you to the sin of committing fornication with her. And this applies to women for men as well. And it applies to young boys and young girls. It's not just adults that are past 20 years old or something to that effect, but young people as well. From when you are legally responsible, that means that you've hit puberty. وَأَكْلُ أَمْوَالِ النَّاسِ بِغَيْرِ طِيبِ نَفْسٍ. It's also haram to consume the wealth of people without them being pleased with that consumption, while they're angry with that consumption. وَالْأَكْلُ بِالشَّفَاعَةِ, and it's also haram to eat by virtue of interceding on behalf of people, meaning consuming the wealth of people in exchange for you interceding for them. أو بالدين, or to eat off of the religion, you know, to get wealthy through the religion, to use the religion as a means of building wealth. وَتَأْخِيرُ الصَّلَاةِ عَنْ أَوْقَاتِهَا, and to delay the prayer beyond its proper time. That's considered a major sin. And we ask Allah to protect us from all of these things. Inshallah, we'll end it here. Jazakumullah khair ya ikhwan. وما ذلك الله بعزيز إن ذلك الله يسير سبحان ربك رب العزة أما يصفون وسلام على المرسلين والحمد لله رب العالمين اللهم صل على محمد